In this video, we're going to talk about a standard security patrol loadout, but before we do that, I think it's important to understand that before you even get to looking at what I would have in my own security patrol loadout if I had a militia, you got to understand that I went through some steps to kind of figure this out, and everybody needs to do this, not just say, well, he's got it in his stuff on YouTube, so I should put it in mine. No, the way I figured this out is very simple. METT-TC, and it's kind of modified off of this, but there's a lot of things that you can get out of it. If you don't know what METT-TC is, it's basically mission planning stuff. Very basic. There's a lot more that goes into it than this, but this will kind of get you spun up on things to think about. So, mission. I'm going to be conducting a security patrol. This is going to be a presence patrol. That's what this means. It's going to be a presence patrol, so in my neighborhood of about 5 square miles, going to be going up and down the road kind of slow, that has consideration. So what that tells me is I'm trying to actually make a presence. I'm trying to get people to see that there's an armed presence, an armed security presence, and we're trying to walk around, kind of make our presence known. So we will be on the roads, we will be basically out in the open, but at the same time that doesn't mean that we're going to be walking around looking like Grand Thumb, where we're going to be wearing big flannel shirts. So if we do take contact, we don't have something that'll help us blend into our environment at least a bit. So, you know, at least in this time of year, even like an olive drab uniform would work good. So, you know, for if you do take contact, it's at least something. But anyways, enemy, likelihood of, you know, there's a likelihood that there could be armed looters. They could have anything from weapons that we possess all the way down to like some muzzle loaders or something like that. So next one is, and you don't really know how many there are, you just know that it's a likelihood of having that out here. So the terrain, we're in a wooded rural area, and there is some waterfront areas in this area, and part of terrain also is weather. That's one of the considerations I like to add in. So it's going to be overcast. It's likely to have some precipitation, so maybe plan for that or just suck it up, you know, but plan accordingly if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. So that's kind of important. It can help with visibility, reflections, and stuff like that. May even have something to do with the camouflage you wear. So anyway, some camouflages, when with overcast, they blend in pretty well. Like Flecktarn blends in pretty well with overcast here in the fall. But when it's nice and bright out, and the sun's out, Marpat works perfectly, as long as it's a twill. But Ripstop, for whatever reason, reflects a bit more. And so, yeah, you can go down to those nitty-gritty details. So the next one is troops available, and I also add QRF to this because if you do get in contact, you need to have kind of a plan of action. Do you have somebody that you can call on the radio on? Well, in this situation, there's 3 of us, and imaginary 2 friends that I have with me for this, and there is no QRF. We're on our own. That's going to come into play in the loadout, so you got to consider this. How many people do you have available, and what are your tactics for contact, and what are you expecting to do if you do run into the enemy? So yeah, you got to have a plan for that. And also, the estimated time for this mission is about 6 hours. I would say 6 to 8, because I'm going to be taking my time, going 5 square miles, just up and down the roads, checking things out, making a presence, you know, checking out some areas where people may not be anymore, but making sure that stuff isn't broken into and stuff like that. Standard security patrol crap. So next one, or last one, is civilians. Now, in 5 square kilometers, there aren't that many civilians as far as, like, compared to a suburban neighborhood or something like that, so that's something to take into account. So there is sporadic civilians around because of this scenario that I'm prepping for or whatever, or at least I'm doing this video for. This scenario I imagined up for this video. So the civilians are sporadic, and another consideration for the civilians part of METT-TC is I would put in attitude or psychological status towards you, or likely psychological status towards you. Do they openly talk to you? Are they friendly to you? Or did they basically see you and they just roll their eyes? And they don't really care, or are they absolutely hostile to you? So that can have a consideration here on a lot of other things too. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into my loadout, and we'll go ahead and go through everything, and I'll explain how, you know, certain things came in or certain things were left out based on, you know, METT-TC. Now that we've talked about METT-TC, let's go ahead and look at the specific loadout I have here. So, working left to right, I have, you know, this is my support side. So, first off, I have a little pouch in the front here with a white light. Now, this white light has about 1,000 lumens, but this is like if I go into a house that's dark or whatever, or something that I believe that may have been previously looted or whatever, or maybe it's a house that was under construction at some point. Maybe you have new squatters or something like that, something you need a white light for. So this is happening during the day, so, you know, I'm not too worried about it, but having a light for going into like a building or something that may have a photonic barrier or whatever, that might be handy. So anyways, beyond that, these two pouches, they just have three 30 round magazines each. So 6 mags on this side, so you got, you know, 180 rounds available, you know, plus the 30 rounder that's in the rifle, but I would actually have the standard AUG mags, and I would have a 42 rounder starting, and then I would have the 30 round Magpul AUS mags. So they actually fit basically just like Magpul mags, which this still holds 3 each. So, you know, still 180 rounds plus a 40 rounder in there, or a 42 rounder. So anyways, that's basically that. There's nothing underneath these mags, but I did attach a dump pouch by basically tying it onto these areas. Usually it's like bungee cord that gets tied onto this stuff, so it stays nice and taut for pouches or whatever. That's typically something you see the Brits do with their belt kit, but and for putting like foliage on there for camouflage or whatever, but I just used it to attach a dump pouch, and it's like in the perfect position. But anyways, this is my reserve utility pouch, my reserve water pouch. And since I'm going to be out for about 6 to 8 hours, I do want to have 2 quarts of water. I know a lot of people would want to have a Camelback. That's fine, you do you, boo, but I'm going to do me, and I'm going to do canteens on this one. Number one, it forces certain security halts, I guess you could say. So I typically don't drink all that much water. Even when I was on deployment in 120-degree heat, I maybe went through a quart of water in a day on patrols, or, you know, constantly moving around or whatever. I just am not one that really needs that many fluids to keep going. So anyways, in here I do have a 2-quart canteen. I take that back. This is my primary canteen pouch, because this is my support hand, so I want to keep my rifle in hand. So my bad, it was all backed up, whatever. So anyways, my primary canteen hand. So since this is on my support side, it's easy to pull out my little Scooby snacks. So I have a wheat snack right here from an MRE, and a nut raisin mix, and another nut raisin mix. So basically all my Scooby snacks would be pretty much in this area, something that I would actually have to take time to get underneath the canteen. So that's pretty much it for this pouch. So basically stuff that I can reach and keep my hand on my weapon at the same time. And then of course we got the middle pouch here, which is basically the utility pouch or emergency pouch. So this stuff will have like my IFAK, which is catered towards me, so it's equipped to basically handle, you know, certain breakages like a dislocated shoulder, dehydration, and stuff like that. And if you are a heat casualty, you do want to have an emergency blanket on you, and of course gauze or whatever for, you know, cuts, scrapes, you know, little boo-boos here and there. But it is good to have like a beverage powder, something to restore electrolytes if it does really get that bad to where drinking water just ain't enough. So having something like that is good. Also for, you know, gunshots, I would have a tourniquet on me. So anyways, then of course a poncho, because yeah, things could happen. You might need a poncho. Maybe it's carrying a casualty, or maybe it's actually setting up something for like 2 hours, like just waiting. And I don't know, this can provide a little bit of camouflage, or maybe you just want to put this on over all your gear because it starts pouring down rain because it was overcast and all of a sudden pissing rain on you. You never know. But there's nothing else really in here. I don't really need anything because I'm not really worried. I'm within a 5 square mile radius of, or 5 square miles of my, you know, base, so to speak. So, and I'm not really too worried about it. So anyways, putting this back, and then now we're gonna go on to the actual canteen pouch that is really the reserve pouch. So moving this over. So this is the reserve pouch. I have the canteen facing down, and that's just the way I roll on that one. And then I have 2 main meals. Now, some people are going to be like, well, that's a lot of food. These aren't for me. For this instance, these are not for me. These may be for kids that might be in the neighborhood. Maybe you want to make a good impression. So replace these main meals, say like pack Skittles or something that it would be good for kids. Maybe a little stuffed animal. Shove that in there. You want to actually make a good impression on people. So, you know, have something in there that people may find handy, people may need. If you have like what is it, like those $20 water filters or whatever, if you're like in an off-grid situation, like where the power's cut off and people can't filter water or whatever, give them, if you have like a big collection of like $20 filter straws or something like that, like life straws or whatever, then get one of those and shove it in there and then give it to somebody or whatever who's in need. Or maybe you can shove like an entire stripped down MRE and shove it in there and give it to somebody. So anyways, that's what that's for. And then of course I have this bread in here, and of course this is just a representation. This is representing like having some canned food or something that you can hand somebody, that you don't need to bring a backpack to do it, unless you want to, and then you just have extra weight. That's on you. But unless I knew exactly who I was going to be giving stuff to, I wouldn't be, you know, putting that weight on unnecessarily. These are just contingency things like, hey, maybe I'll have an opportunity to, you know, make a good impression. Well, that's what this stuff is for. It's for good impressions. So on to these ammo pouches. Now with this ammo pouch, it's not an ammo pouch. This is actually my, basically my admin pouch. So here I have a monocular if I want to see something at a distance. You're on a security patrol. Hopefully you're catching something quick. It has 10 magnification. Don't need binoculars. You only need one eye to actually see. And then, of course, I have a compass. Now, this wouldn't be sitting in the pouch. This would actually sit in the pocket, but just to emphasize, yes, I would have a compass. Like maybe I want to have a bearing on something and then map it out later because maybe I don't have a map on me. If you're walking street to street, you don't necessarily need a map, but maybe you want to actually have an idea of the area that you're going. So, you know, having a compass or whatever on you with some note-taking gear or whatever. Maybe you have a little map in your note gear that's on your person. I don't know. That's on you. I would be bringing something like this, like FUBAR CLP. This can be a weapons lubricant, but that's not its primary purpose. It would be an insect repellent because this time of year, insects and sun are horrible. Also, dry skin is like really killer. So these 3 things are really killer right now. So got to keep the insects away. It works really good for that. It's just a good all-in-one outdoor product. So then I have apple jelly and apple jelly. Why would I have apple jelly? Well, that's to restore electrolytes and give me quick sugars that I can process right away. Now, I'm not saying that I would actually have just MRE jelly. I would actually get like jelly packets or something like that. Or you can make it out of a Ziploc bag, like something that you can quickly pull out and, you know, cut the tip off of it and squeeze some jelly into your mouth or something with a high sugar content. Just keep that in mind. This stuff has a lot of high fructose corn syrup. I would go with something that's actually sugar. So, you know, just keep that in mind. So anyways, that's this little pouch. Of course, these MRE things are just representations or props for these videos, so just keep that in mind. So yeah, I would keep the monocular here in reach. It can be kind of bulky sitting in the pocket. You don't want that dangling and whacking you on the knee, or, you know, dangling in an arm pocket. Trust me, the only thing I really had in my arm pocket was like a wheat snack bread or something like that when I was out. But that's just me. For this one, all I have is 3 30-round magazines. So total I have 10 magazines. So I have over, 300 rounds. So about 313 rounds total because of that 42 rounder that I would have initially in the rifle. But anyways, on the end here I have a knife, a folder knife, Benchmade Barrage Tanto straight edge. It's actually a really nice knife, and obviously it's seen a lot of miles. Really good knife, and it fits perfectly in this pocket right here. So that's basically the loadout. So that's pretty much it. I know some people would be like, well, you need to have a fixed knife if you get in hand-to-hand situations. I know a lot of people are into that thing, and you do you, but in my area and for the METT-TC that I had established for this is the loadout for that circumstance. In some cases, most cases, if I was starting out to patrol and I knew my neighborhood pretty well, I would, before I knew my neighborhood pretty well, I would be wearing body armor. And until I started being able to read the situation, the people, the terrain and stuff like that, just the area, I would want to wear body armor in addition to this. So it would be a total of 50 pounds that I'd be carrying for about 6 hours. But probably more if I was like delivering supplies to people or sending messages and stuff like that, and just petting babies and kicking wives or whatever. So yeah, just keep that in mind. METT-TC is really going to be the thing that's going to decide a lot of this stuff. So instead of just looking at this video and trying to copy what I have, realize that I went through a process of pre-thinking my loadout here, and changing one thing on the METT-TC chart and other little considerations specific to your area could drastically change, the amount of ammo you have, the amount of equipment you have, because you might add instead of a poncho, you might have a Gore-Tex, which does take up more room. You might have more magazines because of the enemy. You might not just have like a plate carrier, you might have full wrap body armor if you're expecting like explosions and stuff like that, and shrapnel protection, maybe a helmet too. There's all sorts of things that could change all this. So